Hey, welcome in.
Welcome to the Arrowhead Addict podcast.
We are here coming to you live.
Let me tell you, the dopamine, it's flowing.
I am damn excited. Damn excited.
We are so excited to be joining you guys tonight.
Oh! Well, how you doing, man? Patrick.
Will Sterling.
Yeah.
Super Bowl champion, two-time Pro Bowler, and Trent Green. Trent Green, how you doing?
Hey, what's going on, guys?
Oh, he picked it up! He picked it up! He's gonna
And we'll see you next week. But until then, as always, go Chiefs.
Welcome into a live edition of the Intangibles brought to you by Arrowhead Addict. My name is Bryce Carter. His name is Christian Ainsworth, and we are two happy fellas. Happy to be here discussing a big Chiefs win. Christian, I think we all needed that, man. We all needed a laugher for once.
Oh, dude, I almost forgot what it means to be a Chiefs fan. Like, that game kind of reinvigorated some of the spirit, of what we were feeling when we were watching this team like 2 or 3 years ago.
We were talking about last week how me and you got together at your apartment and went to the Mizzou game and everything, and how you aged me by 10 years. Cause I just realized that while there's only 3 or 4 years of age between us, the gap could never be bigger. I feel myself aging all the time. And yes, I measure how I watch Chiefs football by how many Chris Collinsworth laughs I get in. Like when they do something, I'm just like, oh, this guy, oh man, I don't know. There's just, it's so stupid, and it really shouldn't be this way. But the train meme where there's the guy looking on one side of the train looking sad, and then there's guy on the other side of the train looking happy. That's sad train is guy winning with a dominant defense, and then happy train is guy winning with dominant offense. And the Chiefs defense was very good in this game, and we'll talk about how well they played. But there is such a thing as the vibes just feel better when you're watching Patrick Mahomes sling it.
Oh, yeah. Well, and when he has people to sling it too, I think that was one of the things that we've kind of lost over the past couple of years. You have prime Travis Kelce, prime Tyreek Hill. The offense is going to be fun. That's just the way that it is.
There's no better way to describe it than it used to be 3rd and 14, and you're just they'll get it.
Oh, yeah. No problem.
And now it's Juwan Taylor Falls starts and it's over. The drive's over. You're not coming back from 2nd and 15. You just can't do it. And yeah, it was good to kind of channel some of that energy again. And also it was good to reaffirm the takes have just gotten so outrageous with the Chiefs. And I am not trying to be a biased homer here, but the people that were saying it's over, it's dead, they're terrible. I've heard, these are literally ways that I had heard the game be described this week as a bad team, a not good team. They suck. I've heard that. And it's guys, can we give it a minute? Can we take a breath? And it truly, it sucks because it is such surface level analysis. But just to realize the last 2 years, they haven't had very many good wide receivers, and they haven't had a left tackle. And now they're starting to get very close to having 3 very good wide receivers, 4, depending on who and how you count, and a franchise left tackle. And it's been a long time. But man, let me tell you, it's exciting to think about.
Oh, dude, I'm tired of the Justin Herbert is better than Patrick Mahomes discourse on Twitter. I've been through with it for 2 or 3 weeks now. And then last night seeing him lose, or yesterday seeing him lose, and then the Chiefs getting the win, it was just okay, everything's right with the world. The Chargers kind of suck. The Chiefs are back to being good. We're back to homeostasis. Everything is back where it should be.
Yeah. And I mean, I just look at it like this. There are players who I think have had moments in time. The new one is Josh Allen, by the way. There's a tweet that went around a couple weeks ago, and it's basically the last 40 games of Baker Mayfield versus Josh Allen, and Baker Mayfield's outperformed him in every category. Josh Allen isn't necessarily lighting up the stat board like he used to. Everything that you're talking about with him is bringing in his rushing and then efficiency. He's stopped turning the ball over. I mean, that's a huge part of what their offensive coordinator has done there is limit the Josh Allen turnovers and ask him to be super 4 times a game instead of 40, which is kind of what the Bills' problem used to be. That can happen. Justin Herbert's playing really great. And, I think before last night, he was probably the MVP through 3 weeks, which is a stupid statement to say anyways. There is no MVP through 3 weeks, but the longevity, right? Like that's the thing. And that's something that I come back to with the Chiefs too. You can talk about the Chiefs and their struggles or whatever, but the amount of times that they've come back from things, that they've had to reinvent this team, to re-motivate themselves, like that is something that matters. Like you see where the Ravens are right now, especially after this game. The vibes are absolutely horrific around the Ravens, and the Chiefs have had those vibes before, but their ability to come back from those vibes, especially now that the pressure is not on them. You saw in the Kingdom documentary how heavy the weight was of the 3-peat. It felt heavy. It's like, nerd here. It was like Frodo. The closer he gets to Mordor, the heavier the ring gets, right? And now it's time.
That reference
You've
doesn't
got
hit me.
you've got a Blade Runner poster behind you.
Yeah,
Don't act
that's
all high
Blade
and
Runner,
mighty.
okay? I don't
Look,
watch. Okay, all right.
The Venn diagram of Blade Runner, and people with Blade Runner posters and people who've watched Lord of the Rings is kind of like
I've watched Lord of the Rings, man.
Okay, but the ring gets heavier. And all I'm saying is beautiful Xavier Worthy reaches down to Patrick Mahomes carrying the ring and he says, "Share the load." He just ask him to take the ring. And you know what? Whenever Rashee Rice comes back, the fellowship is going to be marching back to the Super Bowl.
I'll take your word for it, man. I'll take your word for it.
Lord of the Rings is freaking fantastic, and it will be a pinnacle event when I start my son watching all of them, the extended versions, which I still own on Blu-ray, even though no one does Blu-ray and even more because I'm cherishing it. It's a prized possession of mine. Okay, but speaking of like great things to watch, multiple epic hour events, let's talk about a Monday Night Football doubleheader tonight and ways that you can make that game a little bit more fun with Underdog. It's a great way to get in on the game and make the games more exciting, which, to be frank, with the Dolphins, with the Jets, with the Bengals and the Broncos, you might be looking for ways to make it more fun, maybe some alcohol and maybe some picks on Underdog. Football season, it's in full swing, and an Underdog is the best place to get in on all the action. Here's what I am looking at. I'm playing this on Underdog tonight. You should too. This is really easy. They do this great $10 entry where for less than $10 you can get a free pick, which is Bo Nix. Can he get half a yard? Which there's sometimes I've wondered if he can, but tonight I think he will get half a yard. So that's a free pick for you. Devon Achane, future Chief, higher than half a rushing touchdown. Jamar Chase, higher than 5.5 receptions. That free Bo Nix picks, and then Jalen Waddle, 4.5 receptions. Easy pick, easy way to make this game a lot more fun. And you can also pick like between multiple games. Maybe you like Garrett Wilson. Maybe you like some Broncos pick or something in there. You can mix it in however you want. Download the app today. Sign up with our promo code Arrowhead Addict. That's all one word, all capitals. Super easy because guess what? You can play here in Missouri as well to score $100 in bonus funds on entries when you place your first $5 bet. That's promo code Arrowhead Addict. Underdog. Make picks, win money. Must be 18 years or older. 19 plus in Alabama, Nebraska. 19 plus in Colorado for some games. 21 in Arizona, Massachusetts, and Virginia, and present a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. See assets.underdogfantasy.com/web/play and get terms _DFS_.html for details. Offer not valid in Maryland, Michigan, New Jersey, Ohio, and Pennsylvania. Concerned with your play, call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.npcgambling.org. In New York, call the 24/7 Hope Light at 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY to 467-369. So let's zoom out a little bit on this game before we kind of get into the minutia. Overall, I think that this is very clearly a statement win for the Chiefs and a game that they were underdogs. Like there's going to be, I said on the post-game show, there's going to be a ton of revisionist history about this game because very quickly it will go from Chiefs make statement win against a team that they were underdogs at home to Chiefs got to beat up on the hospital team. That wasn't real. Like, the poor Ravens, like they're just so dinged up. And I want to be clear. The Ravens defense was definitely dinged up. And if we're talking about what matters most from this game, I actually think it's the defense. They had Lamar Jackson in hell. This was the number one offense in the NFL coming into this game. And they had Lamar Jackson tapping out, which I kind of wonder if he did, honestly.
Oh yeah. Anytime a game gets really tight, or not really tight, but that gap starts to widen, you start to see players go down. I definitely think that was part of it is, we're just tired of being here. Let's just, if I can sit out the rest of this game, that'll be fine. But I think you're right. The only problem that I have with the Chiefs offense's back take is that, the Ravens were down 6 of their 11 starters by the end of the game, and they were already ranked at 31st overall defense. So, it's kind of hard to look at that and go, oh, the Chiefs offense is fixed. This is like that Bears game from maybe last year or 2 years ago, where they just fired their defensive coordinator. They were down some players, and the Chiefs had their get right game and, went back to mediocrity for the rest of the season. So, the defense, though, I agree. Spags was dialing some shit up. Like there were some things where there was a free rusher on like 5 or 6 plays in a row. It felt like, where it's like Lamar is trying to find somebody who's getting choked at the line from Noel Williams, or has Trent McDuffie on him, and it's like, man, how is anybody supposed to win when that's going on?
Yeah, I mean, I can't get all the way there with you, because that secondary still has a lot of really good players in it. You've got Marlon Humphrey, Nate Wiggins. They bring in Chidobe Awuzie. Kyle Hamilton's a really good safety. That first round pick safety that me and you both loved, Malachi Starks. Roquan Smith was still in that game for most of it. And, I watched the Chiefs. Like I've already watched this game on all 22. They put the laser beam, like, the sniper laser beam where you see it on someone's head. Like that's what they did with Marlon Humphrey in this game. And that's a guy who's been an all-pro, and they were not afraid to go after him with Kelsey, not afraid to go after him with Xavier Worthy. And, I would say, like, the Chiefs offensive line, I definitely think it's growing and getting better. We saw, unfortunately, like, probably Josh Simmons, I want to say it's his worst rep, because I can't promise to remember every single one, but definitely one of his lowlights, where he did give up a sack in that game against a guy who I couldn't tell you who is. But that's to be expected from a rookie left tackle. And overall, he played really well. Something I want to highlight, there comes a time when the meme, the joke, it outlives the actual truth. Kingsley Suamataia, we've got to stop acting like he sucks. Like, that's the narrative left over from last year and then kind of carried over into the preseason. This last 2 weeks, he's allowed 1 pressure. Last 2 weeks. Yes, the Ravens had a Mickey Mouse defensive line out there due to injuries. But last week, he faced Dexter Lawrence, Abdul Carter, Kayvon Thibodeau, Brian Burns. Like, that's a badass defensive line. And 1 pressure allowed. Kingsley Suamataia, who would have thought it? Player development. Players get better the more they play.
Oh, yeah. And there's a player I'm going to name for the Seahawks, Stone Forsythe, who a lot of people, I mean, you can call Kingsley Suamataia a bust, and I think, or a bum. A lot of people did to start the season and saying we need to get him off the field and replace him with Jalen Moore. But you look at other players around the league, and these guys are NFL players. The Mickey Mouse defensive line thing, I mean, that's a fair criticism of the situation, but it's definitely still NFL caliber players going up against NFL caliber players. And Kingsley Suamataia put on a show. I mean, that's all that can be said. 41 pass blocking reps, 0 pressures. That's what more could you ask of the man? And honestly, if we're talking about confidence and the intangible stuff from this game, that's definitely something that I think is going to carry over into the next game. Getting that confidence up against a Ravens defense who, let's face it, I mean, that's their moniker. I mean, I know they're an offensive team, but when you think about the Ravens, you think about defense. And Kingsley Suamataia, I'm sure, went home and said, I helped Patrick Mahomes out, 0 pressures against the Ravens. And that's going to be the story of his weekend.
Yeah, and I thought there were some really nice moments there where I've noticed the last couple of weeks, Matt Nagy, Andy Heck, some of the guys who come to the podium for the Chiefs coaching staff have said, we still are trying to find out what we're good at, which jumps out to me because it's okay. Well, we're in week 4 now. But I think we got to see a little bit more of that in this game. Unfortunately, Isaiah Pacheco drops a pass that hits him in the hands in a screen pass, but they had Kingsley Suamataia and Creed Humphrey moving downfield. I think he walks in for a touchdown there. I put a picture of it on my timeline, but like getting those guys out on the move looks really good. And also, like, we've been crying out for the Chiefs to get more heavy at the line of scrimmage, bring in more tight ends, get into 13 personnel, under center runs. And there was some of that. Like, there's a couple snaps of Mike Caliendo coming in, being a 6 offensive lineman. And this isn't in the 4th quarter when they're salting the game away, by the way. This is in the 1st quarter. And they get Mike Caliendo in there lined up on the other side of Josh Simmons as an extra blocker. And no coincidence, those were some of their more effective runs. And what I'm really interested to see is, and Nate Tice has hit on this a little bit from Yahoo, under center with no play action, like just under center pure drop back. Like, I think that's the next wrinkle that's coming. You see Brashard Smith starting to be utilized more and more interesting ways. Like, I think they're getting a better feel for the personnel. And, I use the baseball analogy. everyone moves down a slot in the lineup. You start adding an Aaron Judge, a Shohei Ohtani, a Bobby Witt. Those are baseball players, Christian. They go down the notch a little bit.
Right.
So when you're relying on a guy to be your 4 hitter, and then all of a sudden he becomes your 7 hitter, that lineup becomes a lot more salty. And seeing that RPO slant to Hollywood Brown where he's wide open in the space, that's some of the stuff that he's good at. You're just like, oh, this team's getting dangerous again. And Travis Kelce, I think he had a good game. He's quietly leading the team in yards after catch. I think there's some pretty exciting signs here for this offense and how the middle of the field is going to open up, especially when Rashee Rice is back.
Oh, 100%. I would like to see that Travis Kelce stat with the amount of screen passes thrown to him versus other players on the team, because I feel like he's been targeted a lot on those recently, and that kind of helps to add it up. But yeah, offensively, man, it was just to take kind of a bigger, wider scope here. I don't know if you can talk about down the field passing as one of those strengths that Matt Nagy was talking about, like what kind of team are we? If we are this year an under center team with drop back, just straight drop back, and you have Tyquan Thornton and Xavier Worthy over the top, Rashee Rice and Travis Kelce over the middle, and then a guy like Hollywood Brown who can take those slants, Juju Smith-Schuster, maybe a little Jalen Royals there at the end, and then a Brashard Smith as their gadget guy. Like that to me is an offense that can work in this NFL. And we like to give Andy Reid and Matt Nagy a lot of shit for calling a lot of bad plays. If they're still trying to figure things out, there's something to be said about that and letting these guys figure some stuff out before we start, throwing the kitchen sink at them.
You kind of hit on it there, so let's just touch on it. What is the ceiling for the Chiefs offense? We're talking about it right now. As we sit before Monday Night Football, the Chiefs are 5th in EPA per play. They are 9th in EPA per drop back, so that's just pure passing. What is the ceiling for this offense?
Well, I think what it comes down to is team built, like how the team is built, the construction of the team. Because when you look at a team that is built like the Chiefs are, where the defense is kind of what they're leaning on at this point as they're getting, different players and different pieces back on offense. I think that the team could be efficient. I don't think that means that the team will be top 5 or top 10 in scoring, which I think a lot of people are going to point to when they think of a top 10, top 5, top 3 offense. EPA per play, I definitely think they could reach top 5 maybe. But when it comes to points per game, I don't think the Chiefs are a team that can score over 30 points a game and average that for an entire season. And you think about the Andy Reid teams of old, where we're putting up a whole bunch of points. Even those teams didn't always hit that 30 points per game marker of being one of these elite offenses. Everybody just kind of knew they're going to turn it up in the postseason. Everybody knows Andy Reid's an offensive genius, and it's just all going to work out. So I think probably somewhere around that like 27, 28 points per game mark, I think is something that is very, very feasible for this team. That would put them about 8th or 9th in the top 10 for scoring. But I think that's about as high as we can climb, especially when there's just so little time for the cohesiveness of the offense to kind of build, with Rashee Rice being on suspension, Xavier Worthy probably seeing less and less snaps as the season goes on just to save him for the postseason. And then also guys working in like Brashard Smith. I just think it's difficult to kind of build something. If this was year 2 of this offense and everybody had played together, I think we could reach that 30 points per game mark, but it's just so difficult with all these new pieces coming in.
I got to put on my red and gold glasses here because I think you're being pretty pessimistic. Let's look over the list right here. Okay, so let's kind of just go down the teams that are in the top 10 of offense right now and tell me teams that you think have a higher ceiling than the Chiefs offense. The Buffalo Bills. I'll say yes because their schedule next week, they play UMass, then they play the Helen Keller School for the Blind, and then it's Kennesaw State. I swear to God. And then they play the Dolphins 5 times somehow. I don't even know how they do that. So I will put the Bills up there. I think that they are just rolling. The Indianapolis Colts, they are 2nd in EPA per play. I don't think, do you see that as sustainable? What's happening there?
No.
It's already going to. It's Daniel Jones. They're definitely better. I think they have real staying power in the top 10, but I don't think better than Chiefs. The Detroit Lions, I will keep them above there. They just have so much talent. The offensive coordinator seems to have a good grasp on what they were doing before. The Green Bay Packers, I'm not completely sold on that. Their offensive line is very banged up, and last night was a hell of a game. That was super entertaining, especially the tie. Like somehow that was almost better than like Dak getting sacked 5 times by Micah. But I don't personally like. I think that the Packers are a top 10 team, but I wouldn't necessarily say that I think that they have a better shot of staying there more than the Chiefs.
Oh, I don't know. I'll have to disagree with you on that one just because of the amount of weapons that they have. Romeo Dobbs, the wide receiver, looks fantastic. They have Marquise Golden, who was a draft darling of a lot of people. They just seem to have a lot of pieces. Tucker Kraft is, casually playing as one of the best tight ends in the league.
Yeah. I love Tucker Kraft, but keep in mind Jaden Reed's on the shelf. They don't have Christian Watson. I could hear it because their run game is so effective, but I'll say like pure talent. I think quantity doesn't necessarily mean quality. I will take Xavier Worthy over almost all their wide receivers. Maybe Dobbs. I would keep I think Tucker Kraft's probably like their true best weapon right now, although Josh Jacobs is probably a top 10 back. Okay, so Cowboys, that one's kind of weird. Like with them without Pickens looked really good last night, but them without CeeDee Lamb. Here, to me, these are the teams that I feel like definitively have a shot at being better than the Chiefs offensively. The Bills, the Lions, the Rams, the Eagles, and then when they're fully healthy, the Buccaneers.
You feel like Baltimore is not in that conversation? Really?
Man, listening to what Harbaugh said today, I'm not sure Lamar Jackson's going to be playing this week or next week. Like he could be out for a couple of weeks. And I think, keep in mind, as good as they were coming into this game offensively, and yes, I know the Chiefs defense stifled them. They're 7th in EPA per play. They're already below the Chiefs. And that's with all the struggles that the Chiefs had early in the season too. So I definitely think they have the talent. Obviously, it would be just like Baltimore to go on a nice 8-game run here where they don't lose. But to me, I think that there's like arguably 5 to 6 teams that I would say like for sure have a higher ceiling than the Chiefs offense. I agree with what you're saying about points scored because we know that Andy Reid likes to put up the playbook. And like the way that the Raiders are trending, shout out to our buddy in the chat, DDT here. The way the Raiders are trending, like Andy Reid's going to put out a preseason playbook just to try to get out of there, right? Like we know that he's not going to show anything, and that's very true. Like they lean on people. So I don't know. I feel if Rashee Rice can come back and be the version of himself that he was, I think this is going to be pretty electric and pretty exciting, especially if they make a trade for a running back, which we're going to talk about here in a minute. But let's go to the other side of the coin. The defense, again, everyone's going to be talking offense after this game, but let's talk about the Chiefs defense and what we saw from them. How high do you feel that the ceiling is for the Chiefs? Right now, they rank in EPA per play on defense. They rank 14th.
Yeah. I think part of that is probably due to the offensive struggles a little bit, but there is something to this Chiefs defense where I think maybe they haven't put it all together either. And I like the ceiling of the defense a lot more than I like the ceiling of the offense. I know the offense can be effective, and Chiefs of old were an offensive team, but man, with the way Noah Williams is playing and the way you can put Trent McDuffie in the slot now and the safeties kind of figuring it out. I mean, Jaden Hicks was all over the place yesterday. And then you're getting these defensive linemen back from injury, like Mike Dana and Omar Norman-Lott kind of finding his footing. To me, this is a defense I think could reach number 1 potential. And part of that is because of the talent. And the other part of it is the schedule and how the offense is playing. We talk about complementary football all the time. I think when this Chiefs offense starts to figure it out, the defense is going to have to be relied on a whole lot less. And I think that opens up, just mentally, some of the guys like Nick Bolton, Drew Tranquil, any of these, outside playing guys, corners, safeties, things like that too, where it's like, man, I don't have to be all over the place. I can be in this one spot. I can play my one role, like Bill Belichick said, and just get shit done. And I think that once we see this offense start to, evolve over the course of the season, we get Rashee Rice back, all these guys start playing the way they're supposed to. I think this defense could be elite. Maybe not all-time elite, because I think, we're missing a few all-pro guys on the team for it to be that good. But, Chiefs defensive line seems to be getting better. Corners seem to be getting better. Safeties are trending up. Like, this to me is just an offense with, almost a limitless ceiling.
Yeah, I'm more bullish on the offense than I am on the defense. I think that starts with the pass rush, which the Chiefs had another good day rushing the passer. I also think that the Ravens offensive line has been leaking a little bit of oil here. They just don't have a true game changing pass rusher anymore. I think Chris Jones is probably about as close as you're going to get. He's got 10 pressures on the season. Like right now, George Karlaftis is very clearly rushing the passer better than Chris Jones. Now, I do think that Chris Jones has the potential to continue to be a very good player at his position. I do like that he's playing more on the inside than he has the last couple of years. I think that's good considering what his skill sets are, and as his burst kind of deteriorates naturally with age. And Ashton Gelati, I think, is proving to be exactly what we thought he was, which is a high floor player. We've seen the effort, we've seen the motor, we haven't seen a pass rush plan per se. And yeah, I'm excited about Omar Norman Lott. I think the thing that makes this defense so good right now is it is a sum of the parts defense. Spags is like that chef. Like my dad was this way. My dad would be like, carton of eggs, celery, heavy whipping cream, and some barbecue sauce. Yeah, we got dinner here. Let's whip this up, right? Like he just takes these ingredients together that you look at and you're like, wow, I don't really think that there's much here. And then he's just whipping up a delicious dinner. And, I would love to get him some gourmet, 5-star ingredients, but you see what he's doing and the way that his defense is able to chameleon to the opponent that they're playing. They play Jalen Hurts and they blitz him something like 67% of the time. Then they come out against Russell Wilson and send him off into retirement by playing 75% too high. Then they come into this game and they turn Nick Bolton into a pass rusher. They blitz so frequently from the A gap. Highlighted play, the Leo Chanel interception. The Chiefs run a stunt on the inside with the defensive end looping on the inside. They send Drew Tranquil on the snap and then a delayed A gap blitz by Nick Bolton. Then you've got Leo Chanel out in coverage on an out go route on Mark Andrews, and he makes the interception. Diabolical.
One-handed interception.
Yeah, diabolical by him. And I think it's, Golden State Warriors kind of positionless defense a little bit, where you've got 2 or 3 guys. You got Shamari Connor, you got Chris Rowland Wallace, you got Trent McDuffie. They can all play in the slot. You got Trent McDuffie who can play out wide. You got Jalen Watson who can play out wide. Noel Williams looks great on the outside. They're not even really factoring in Christian Fulton here because he's struggled to stay healthy. But they just have a lot of guys who can do a lot of things. And I like that. They've got Leo Chanel who they can mug up in an A gap and occupy a real run gap. I really think that obviously this is a defense that's built around the defensive coordinator and his ability to blend and adjust. I think that this is a top 15 defense. I think it could be top 10 depending on how things go. The schedules had changed, right? We were just talking about elite offenses. We didn't talk about the Bengals. They have some of the best offensive personnel in the league, but their quarterback's hurt. So that can change things. But I think top 15, top 10, I don't see them getting into that top 5 range just because I think that they are a little vulnerable against the run. And I do think that they're just probably a little vulnerable to certain teams that can really attack them out of base personnel, which the Ravens, to their credit, didn't really get to do because they were game scripted out of it, which has always been the thing. Patrick Ricard not being in this game is huge. The Chiefs have really struggled out of base personnel, 3 linebackers, 4 down defensive linemen when they get a fullback on there. That was part of the issue with Scott Matlock against the Chargers in Brazil.
Scott Matlock, shout out, playing incredibly well this season as well. But
he is, for a converted defensive lineman, dude's rock. That's just a classic. I get tired of the Harbaugh thing a little bit, but dude's rock. And him turning a converted ginger defensive lineman into a fullback, dude's rock.
So I have a question for you then. So you look at Omar Norman Lott and you say you're a big fan and you like what he's doing this season. How do you feel about the stat of him being first overall in pass rush win rate from the defensive tackle spot for the season for any player?
It's a little bit of the Tennessee thing. He played 17 snaps this week, which is right about what he averaged for Tennessee. That's fine. I'm okay with that. If he in limited snap sizes, right? We said that all along. If you're going to come in here and play 17, 18, 19 snaps, you better kick ass against the pass rush because you weren't a run stopper. And I think he's shown some flashes here. I got kind of excited when the Chiefs called up Broderick Martin. That was very clearly just insurance in case Chris Jones couldn't play. A former top 100 pick out of Western Kentucky. Big body one tech. Look, man, I've watched the All-22. I don't need to see Derek Nottie on the field.
Yeah.
Shout out to Jerry Tillery, who actually had himself a pretty good game. I could go for anybody playing defensive tackle, not number 92.
Unfortunately, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, he just gets washed out way too much, man. I mean, there's just very little upside to his game at this point. So yeah, I mean, I definitely think that that's exciting for Omar Norman Lott. But again, like keep in mind too, like that stat is partially because of the double teams and stuff that Chris Jones occupies. Now, good on him for winning those one-on-ones, but also like there are always going to be those guys who I think are pass rush win rate, pressure rate darlings compared to like sacks, right? Like there's just some guys that are going to pop in that area a little bit more than others.
Yeah, which is true. And you have guys like James Houston from Detroit a few years ago who had an 8-sack season. Oh, it might have been more than that, actually, but just a monster season. And he had like a really, really low pass rush win rate. It was just the times that he won. It was so quick that he got to the offense. He had a lot of open sacks too, where he was unblocked. But yeah, no, there's definitely something to be said about the style of the player and how they, generate those pressures and get back in the backfield. But to me, Omar Norman Lott is one of those guys that I think you see the future all-pro in him, even if he's playing, eventually 50-40% of the snaps. I think he's the heir apparent to Chris Jones. I think he's played a phenomenal first part of the season, first 4 games, or I guess first 3 because he didn't play in the first one. But yeah, it's incredible to see his development as well. I have put a lot more faith into these young guys stepping up and being really, really good than I think you do. Because
I to be clear, like not to call my own number here, but I wrote after week 1, like Chiefs, the path for them getting better on defense is to let the kids play. Noah Williams, Ashton Gelati, Omar Norman Lott, obviously Josh Simmons was playing. And then even like, at that time I was hoping Jalen Royals and Brashard Smith were going to mix in more. But I certainly think this is already racer stealing. I mean, what a great problem to have for Christian Fulton's contract already. Like some people are saying like, hey, is this a bad contract because he's not playing and he costs a lot and Noah Williams is playing so well. I promise, like you want corner depth, right? Because corners, like as soon as a bad one gets in the game, a lot of quarterbacks just find them and go after them repeatedly. So that's Jalen Watson insurance. And also next year will come to Christian Fulton still under contract. Next year, your outside corners might be Christian Fulton and Noah Williams and then Trent McDuffie on the inside. What a privilege to have not like to lose the whole wave of corners that they lost. It drafted in 2022, right? With Brian Cook and with Joshua Williams and Jalen Watson and Trent McDuffie, and they might not even have to draft a corner next year if Fulton and Noah Williams pan out the way that we think that they will. So that's huge. And yeah, I do think like, the heir apparent to Chris Jones is tough because that's just a lot to put on someone, but I think he can be a lot more like a Milton Williams type of player. That's like was kind of my comp for him because he's a little bit more short and stocky. And then, yeah, like, this defense, it's molded to the players. Like the pass rush plan is still very much like we're going to win around Chris Jones. Well, they could become more of a traditional pass rush where you're going to try to win on the edges and stunt and game stuff up rather than trying to create for Chris Jones. And maybe that's where Omar Norman Lott succeeds. Go get Dominique Orange, big citrus from Iowa State.
Ooh,
get
there we go.
A big penetrating one tech, and then Omar Norman Lott could be their creator in space. But yeah, I certainly think that there's more ceiling left to the defense. And shout out, we got to give credit where it's due. Nick Bolton had himself a hell of a game as a pass rusher. That was someone that I talked about on the post-game show. There's always in the Ravens game, it feels like Nick Bolton is just taken advantage of with Mark Andrews, with Isaiah Likely. Justice Hill has killed him, and then Lamar's legs. And you did not feel that in this game. And, we haven't even mentioned Jeff Bassa, who, I think his snaps on defense will be very limited, but like you have depth there and he's flashed on special teams. I do think that if they needed to, they could plug him in and he at least can bring something to it. And I thought Drew Tranquil's had a nice bounce back this year too. Like I thought he looked a little bit slower last year, not quite as quick to trigger on things. He's not been taken advantage of in coverage this year like he was years prior.
Yeah, well, the whole linebacking room, really. I mean, you look at Leo Chanel, and there have been some times where we've seen him pop off, and he can be, that dominant guy that we've seen him be. But to have him drop back in coverage and play so well against one of the best tight ends in the league, I think is something that needs to be highlighted as well. That's a very difficult assignment. I know he was right place, right time, right play. which is kind of like the stars aligning for a Chiefs linebacker, it seems like. But
he got his
dude,
head around. There's some of
Yep.
our corners that struggle with that. So getting his head around is more than half the battle there. Like the catch was awesome, but getting his head turned there was huge. And that was a huge moment in the game too. Like I remember thinking to myself, it's about to be 14-3. The way that they were marching back down that field. And that was just a huge momentum switch in that game. So we talked about the ceiling of the defense. We talked about the ceiling of the offense. We want to talk about a way to raise the ceiling of this offense, and it's going to be the running back position. I tweeted out, I've seen enough Isaiah Pacheco on my screen. All right. The last 2 weeks, they have faced dreadful run defenses, and Isaiah Pacheco still did not lead the team in rushing. Xavier Worthy did with 1 carry. Okay. So I promise, someone said in the post game chat, they're like, we got to give it up to Juwan Taylor. No penalties in this game. It's like, no, we do not have to give it up to Juwan Taylor for no penalties. You do not absolutely have to give it up to him. I got myself dressed this morning. No one was like, hey, nice, shirt's on the right way, the pants button on your own. My toddler, when he does dress himself, it's like, hey, great job, buddy. But you do not have to give it up to Isaiah Pacheco for taking advantage of a very putrid, dinged up defensive line. So I think running back, you want to talk about another way that this offense can become elite. It's someone who can take advantage of light boxes. We know Kareem Hunt's going to run into heavier boxes because he gets the short yardage stuff. I haven't checked this week, but through 3 weeks, Isaiah Pacheco has not had a carry in a single stacked box. And he still has very much not taken advantage of that, including that screen pass that he drops. So let's talk about it. Do you think that the Chiefs make a move at running back this year?
I think the answer is unequivocally yes. I think when you see the snap counts going down for Isaiah Pacheco and going up for Kareem Hunt, you see Rashard Smith getting up there. I mean, just looking at the percentages here, I just looked it up to make sure 44% of the offensive snap counts, Kareem Hunt was in the game. Okay. Then you go down 37% for Isaiah Pacheco. It's a difference of about 5 snaps. And then Rashard Smith, 26%, bumped up significant amount from last week. I think when you look at that and you see how the leaves are sort of falling around this position group, you go, okay, writing's kind of on the wall. I don't think that the Chiefs are necessarily 100% thrilled with that room. I think they're trying to bring guys like Rashard Smith up slowly but surely. I mean, that's the Andy Reid special for rookie offensive players, it seems like. So seeing that transition sort of happening and seeing, I think, I don't know if you saw anything about the Isaiah Pacheco drop, but as soon as it dropped, boos all across the stadium. I think the fan base is fed up. I think the coaching staff is a little bit fed up. I think we're saving face at this point. Those guys are, at least for keeping him on the roster and making sure that he's still happy. I don't think anybody is thrilled that he's there. So I think a move, there are just so many options here when you look at guys who are available, could be available, that the Chiefs pulling the trigger on one of them seems like almost 100% like it's going to happen. Now, if it's a stud or an all-star, maybe not, we'll see. But definitely some vets and some bargain bin guys out there that they could pull the trigger on.
To Western Brewster's comment here in the chat, like I said that last night on post game, that this toilet bowl loser has to trade the Chiefs their starting running back for preferably a 5th round pick or less. Breece Hall or Devon Achane, like we'll take either. Really up the stakes on this game. You up the stakes on Underdog, up the stakes on like force trading a running back to the Chiefs. One thing that I want to highlight is just Matt Nagy came to the podium today and talked about continuing to find more paths for Rashard Smith to get the ball. I think hearing that just kind of tells you what Rashard Smith's role is, and it's not going to be taking 15 to 20 carries. I do not see Rashard Smith having a Damian Williams run throughout the playoffs where he's just the lead back for this team. Frankly, I think Kareem Hunt is still a useful enough player that you don't just plan on getting rid of his carries. I think, ideally his carries are much less and they're on 3rd down and short or pass blocking. We're really trying to outsource Isaiah Pacheco's touches in this offense, which, so far has usually been between 5 and 10 touches. So it's not a huge need. There are all sorts of swings that they can take. Looking at the trade market, that's going to be something that's big. I kind of categorize these into different categories. So the studs and the stars, you want to swing big. These are guys that I think are going to take they might take a new contract if they're traded here, and it might be a 4th round pick. Breece Hall, Devon Achane, Travis Etienne. Devon Achane still has control, 2 years of control left, 3 if you factor in the franchise tag. I think he would probably be the most expensive, but he himself was a 4th round pick. So, if the Dolphins could basically turn that into another pick, and keep in mind, Devon Achane, he actually, despite being a smaller guy, does run between the tackles well, but he's not a pass protector. Like, this is not Jerick McKinnon 2.0, but obviously very explosive. Which one of those names excites you the most?
I think as far as you look at how he would fit in the offense, and I think you look at the probability that he would be traded. You look at Travis Etienne there and you think, okay, they just traded away their other running back. This seems like a team who's trying to surround Trevor Lawrence with talent. I can't really see them trading Travis Etienne. He's having a bounce back year. If you have him on fantasy, you know that. He's balling out right now. To me, this is between Breece Hall and Devon Achane. And I think when you look at the teams and the state that they're in, I think that the Dolphins are going to be moving a lot more quickly. And by that, I mean, I think the head coach is on the hot seat. I think that the offensive coordinator is on the hot seat. Defensive coordinator, I think they could be making changes even higher up as far as GM. Devon Achane seems like the perfect player to come in and play running back for the Kansas City Chiefs. You talked about a 4th, 5th round pick. I could absolutely see, and then definitely, I think you could get away with maybe the first year, not immediately giving him an extension and being like, hey, let's see how you work out. And then, giving him 12, 13, 14, 15 carries a game, being like, well, we can't use you in short yardage type of situations. This seems like a situation where Devon Achane might not cost as much as a lot of people think he might, which is advantageous to the Chiefs. He seems like the guy. If you're going to make a move and pay a 3rd or a 4th or a 5th round pick for a running back that could come in and be game changing, he's the guy. He's got the speed. He's electric. I mean, he would be the closest thing we've had to Jamal Charles since Jamal Charles. I mean, dear God, could you imagine Devon Achane in this offense? Breece Hall is a little bit less so, but he's another guy that I think you could plug in and he would be effective. I just don't necessarily know about the vision, which a lot of people, that's Isaiah Pacheco's main flaw is the vision. It's not being explosive. It's not, shying away from contact. It's the vision. And so, if you're looking something completely different, Devon Achane seems like that guy.
Yeah, I think he'd be the most expensive. I also think that the player skill set that fits best into the current running back room is probably Breece Hall. I think he's the best, pure 1st and 2nd down back here, best runner of the ball. And he to his credit, he's been a good receiving back too. He has had, 19 receptions, 76 receptions, 57 receptions the last couple of years. Those are his season receptions. This guy can catch the ball. Also, one thing to factor in here too is if the Jets are selling off, you could just basically rent Breece Hall, which would make his price much less, where it's probably closer to a 5th or 6th round pick. But then, you're giving that pick up. And with the compensatory formula, you never really know what you're getting back in the way of comp picks. I think Justin Reed is probably the only comp pick that they'd be getting back this year based upon his playing time. But keep in mind too, the running back room, next year, it's Brashard Smith. End of story. There's nothing else. Isaiah Pacheco, I don't need to see him back here. I don't need to see Clyde Edwards-Helaire back here. Kareem Hunt, hopefully we can send him off to retirement with the Super Bowl ring. That'd be a great way to end his story here in Kansas City. He's definitely closer to the end than the beginning. We'll put it that way. So for me, it's Breece Hall. I think he's the best pure fit of what the running back room is too. And I think the question that the Chiefs need to ask themselves is long-term, how do they get better at running back? Well, there are some guys in this draft, Jeremiah Love is pretty exciting. I think actually both Notre Dame running backs have looked really good. And there's quite a few good backs in this class, but it's nowhere near what it was last year. And they couldn't pull the trigger last year. Where is it getting better? Is it free agency? Travis Etienne will be a free agent next year. He's had some experience in the Reed system under Doug Peterson. But are you really going to want to shell out free agent dollars to a running back? So maybe they just look at it and say hey, we're going to spend the cap space on a Breece Hall. We're going to extend him to a moderate deal, which, by the way, these running back deals, they've come back down to earth. That's how the Eagles were able to go get Saquon Barkley, or the Ravens to go get Derrick Henry. Those are teams that are paying real quarterbacks right now. Let's go to the mid tier, right? I call these useful veterans: Alvin Kamara, Tony Pollard, Nick Chubb, Javonte Williams, Miles Sanders. I threw both the Cowboys guys in there. Any of those names really pique your interest?
I mean, Alvin Kamara, obviously. But I think a low key one, and we've talked about him before, me and you off the podcast, Tony Pollard. Dude, he is like, all he does is just do good shit. When you put him in the game, he's good. Like, he's never going to be great. I don't think he's ever going to be like a top 5 running back in the league. I don't think that's controversial to say. But he is one of those guys where it just seems like any situation he's in, he just does well. Maybe not great. I think a lot of teams that have had him, like the Cowboys, I think there's more upside to be had elsewhere, so they let him go. But again, he just comes in, plays a great offensive snaps, from the running back position, and then goes home. And if you're the Chiefs right now and you go, Isaiah Pacheco, dear God, turn your head around the right direction, please, or catch balls that hit you in the hand right in front of your face, I think that could be a relieving change to the running back room, where a guy comes in very stable, very reliable. Alvin Kamara, though, I think is probably what a lot of Chiefs fans are looking at as like, this is the dream. Like, he's been fantastic his entire career. All he does is break tackles. He's a great receiving back, great between the tackles. I mean, you love to see him in KC too. The price tag is just what gets me for Alvin Kamara.
Yeah, the Chiefs would have to finagle the cap to make that work, which is possible. There's always certain things that they can do. They could basically convert some of Juwan Taylor's salary into a signing bonus, but that doesn't provide you the same cap relief when you cut him next year. I think Kamara profiles as the most true 3-down back. You could have whatever the situation is. It's 1st and 10. Chiefs start with the ball out in a playoff game. He's going to be there for the whole drive. Or if it's the no huddle, trying to score before half. And I think all these guys, Javonte Williams could make some sense too, as the true just kind of 1st down, 2nd down back. Nick Chubb could too. And obviously he's closer to the end than the beginning, but I just finished watching the Texans game for FTN. I think that he looks. Here's the thing. I think he could take advantage of the holes that are there, which cannot be said for certain running backs that are on the roster, and he would be cheap. And, the Texans, they have a lot of issues. What the hell is up with Joe Mixon? Who knows? My fantasy season, no one cares about your fantasy team, but damn it, dude. And
they just traded Cam Robinson too. They just traded an offensive tackle.
Well, I mean, he's been a healthy scratch for them. That team's a freaking mess. The last 2 weeks, they've traded 2 players that they gave over $10 million to this year. Yeah. And CJ Gardner-Johnson and Cam Robinson. But they have Damian Pierce on the roster as well. He could be a bargain bin name. And then they've been playing Woody Marks more and more, the rookie out of USC. All right, let's go to the bargain bin here. Jerome Ford, Jalen Wright, Sean Tucker, Raheem Mostert were all names that I included.
Ooh, Sean Tucker to me is an interesting guy. As I do FTN as well for the Minnesota Vikings, and I do all their offensive snaps. And Sean Tucker is one of those guys that you look at and go, wow, he pops. He's not in very often, but when he's in, he pops. He was the 3rd down guy, receiving back, that played very, very well. And receiving out of the backfield, stuff like that, he just seems like he is very, very good at. So if the Chiefs are going to lean into this Kareem Hunt-led between the tackles running game, which I don't think they should, but if that's their plan, they want somebody who can, come in and play some electric snaps for them. Sean Tucker's a guy I could see. Jerome Ford, a little bit less so. He hasn't been good since about 2023. He was a guy that I took a deep dive into for my most recent article for Arrowhead Addict. But receiving out of the backfield, he's pretty good. The vision is kind of a problem. But if you can get him looking like 2023 Jerome Ford, he's a guy that could be a legit force. And we're looking for those right now. I think he would probably take away from Brashard Smith a little bit, but with how versatile Brashard Smith is, I don't think it'll be hard to manufacture touches for that guy. I think he's somebody you can plug in at the Y. You can plug, or not the Y, the Z or the B, and have him all over the field and play snaps wherever you need him to.
Yeah, obviously this is the type of bin that you're looking at flipping picks or a late day 3 pick. Sean Tucker is the name that jumps out at me. He's a guy who's just kind of not been able to find his footing in Tampa Bay, and it's frankly just because they're so good at drafting running backs. They've got Bucky Irving, they have Rashard White. Sean Tucker last year had a game against the Saints, 14 carries for 136 yards. That was a game that Rashard White got hurt, and they hadn't quite started leaning into Bucky Irving. This year, he's got 2 attempts on the season. This is a guy that, I think you could get for relatively cheap. And you just see like what he can bring. Like he's a guy who's shown juice. A little bit interesting of a story with him. Like he had a draftable grade from most teams from out of Syracuse in the 2023 draft. Ended up having a heart condition that was discovered during the combine, and fell down most teams' boards because of that. Didn't end up going drafted, but has really kind of fallen out of favor there, not because of the player, but also just like how good they've been at drafting running backs. He's still 23 years old too. So there's some ceiling there. That's just like a lottery pick, right? Like you just do that and say like, all right, let's bring him in here, start getting him some carries and see if he can just be an upgrade over Isaiah Pacheco. And then, then you go into the year with him still having control and you just say like, all right, Sean Tucker, Brashard Smith, this is the making to, let's spend a day 2 pick on a running back here and see where we can go from there. So I definitely think that there could be some bargain bins, like we said, Jerome Ford's another name. I think we all want them to shop in that star bin or maybe the useful vet, but I'll throw out Jalen Wright too. An explosive guy, speed guy, taken like the Dolphins always do. They take him because he's fast. He's a day 2 pick out of Tennessee. He's kind of fallen out of favor there. They've got Etienne. They drafted Ollie Gordon out of Oklahoma State. Like they just seem to keep spending money on these draft picks on these running backs, not using them. He's another guy, a one-cut runner that like, hey, if there's a gap there, he's going to hit it, and it could be a home run.
Yeah, and just to be clear here, so you're talking about Sean Tucker from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I was talking about Xavier Scott, not Sean Tucker. I read the wrong.
Well, they did play. I thought you were talking about when they played the Vikings because the Bucks did play
No.
Okay.
No. Xavier Scott is their lighter skinned running back that is
change of pace back. Okay.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Sean Tucker, though, I agree. I very, very athletic guy. Somebody who has fallen out of the rotation there. And when you look at the team, man, it's like, yeah, no wonder. I mean, he's got 2 great running backs in front of him. Just seems like a guy who hasn't found his footing. And if you're the Chiefs and you're like, please, dear God, get me somebody in here who can be reliable, I think he's absolutely a guy they could bring in and be sort of that, not necessarily a workhorse running back, but somebody who can play real snaps for him.
At the end of the day, it just comes back to this. Like you want to do something that your opponents, your rivals fan bases don't want to see. And when that like Chiefs acquiring Alvin Kamara or Breece Hall notification hits their phone, first off, when it hits your phone, you're going to do the Chris Collinsworth like, like, Happy, guess who learned who to putt? Like Happy knows how to putt now. And then, like that's something that they don't want to see. And I don't know, man, like Patrick Mahomes turned 30. You don't want to start thinking about the end, but you don't want to sit around being like, oh yeah, we remember when we flipped that conditional 7th for Jerome Ford, the year that like the offense was really open and they just couldn't do anything on the ground. Like, let's not wait around for that, right? Like, let's see what Alvin Kamara's got. Let's see what a Devon Achane takes, and just fix running back for a couple of years because you're not going to have Travis Kelce forever. You don't know what the future holds with Rashee Rice, so let's get good at the skill position players because I'm not sure that they're going to be elite at tight end forever.
Yeah, 100%. And you talked about it a little bit here, but I'm just going to hit you with something, and you can tell me how you feel about this. So I think cap is a big issue whenever we talk about these types of things. Christian Fulton being on the roster is great. He's absolutely expendable after this year. Juwan Taylor, another guy that you're looking at that's like, hey, is he going to be on the roster long term? It can be cut for some cap savings. So when you look at these guys like Breece Hall, Devon Achane, Travis Etienne, Alvin Kamara, some of these guys who have this high cap hit, I think a lot of people have this idea of like, well, we can have him or we can have Trent McDuffie. And it's like, no. There's very much a reality where they sign a running back to a long-term contract and the defense still gets Trent McDuffie and maybe Leo Chanel. Like this is not a situation where it's either or. Cap is so flexible nowadays. It is real. So don't listen to those guys who tell you that, cap isn't real, but you can absolutely manipulate it with the guys you have on the roster and keep all of these pieces you've invested high draft picks in and make the roster better, which,
look at what they're doing with the skill players right now. Like your skill players, ideally next year could be a rookie contract with Xavier Worthy, a rookie contract with Rashee Rice, maybe a small extension for Tyquan Thornton. Noah Gray has on an extension.
Mm-hmm.
Travis Kelce might not be here. Jalen Royals, like that's where most teams spend a ton of their cap. And by the way, they've got a rookie contract left tackle. Obviously, you still got a lot of money tied up on the defensive line with Chris Jones, with George Karlaftis. You're paying Nick Bolton. But yeah, like I think like where these teams spend, it's cyclical. They're not paying anybody at corner. right now. So they could pay someone there, and Chris Jones' contract will come off the book in a couple of years. So yeah, like you look at these things 1, 2, 3 years down the road. But we're going to be looking 1, 2, 3 days ahead in the week here as we go towards Monday Night Football for the Chiefs. We're gonna have a show every single day of the week here on Arrowhead Addict. We're talking in the premium Discord. Make sure to get in there, and we'll have a show leading up to Monday Night Football. We will be still having a show Monday during the day, kind of like a little early pregame, and then I'll be here with pregame and halftime as well too. We'll have postgame after the Chiefs play the Jags in Jacksonville. So please stick with us. Please like and subscribe this video. Christian, thanks for helping me out today as always. Richard, thanks for doing a great job as always to our producer. And that's going to be it from us here today at Arrowhead Addict. And as always, go Chiefs.